Qabela phezulu. Kubai Mamuluko 1730. Jomat Peterson Tina 1726. Ndabeni Abraham Stella 1719. Nkadime Tembi 1681. Mkize Zweli 1673. Likhanyani Soviet 1653. Potgieter Phoebe 1606. Kotongwana Enoch 1554. Pesani Sbongile 1546. Kekana Pinky 1518. Manamela Puti 1503. Mahlobo David 1486. Matale Castle 1478. Machotina Pemi 1470. Zulu Lindiwe 1451. Mutwaledi Aaron 1448. Diko Kusela 1439. Dlamini Batabile 1430. Maswale Pumulo 1425. Masina Mzwandile 1400. Mudise Tandi 1405. Dlamini Zuma Nkosazana 1402. Gungubele Mondli 1369. Titiza Togo 1362. Tau Pax 1362. Bapela Obet 1340. Maumapilu Supra 1336. Maswanganyi Joe 1317. Mahambeshala Tandi 1316. Masondo David 1304. Matikizela Babalo 1286. Kivit Nokolo 1275. Mzuzan Jabulo 1275. Masemula Dixon 1268. Nkabani Nobuhle 1248. Nkonyeni Peggy 1248. Chrissy Barbara 1242. Ramukhopa Khosientsu Sputla 1229. Mchaveni Kumbuzo 1204. Phahla Joe 1204. Sisulu Lindiwe 1187. Bushielo Poli 1182. Godlimpi Zuko 1172. Mhlauli Nonyeba 1168. Makwetla Tabang 1167. Kekana Nkenke 1158. Silamulela Donald 1143. Aba Cyril 1128. Chikunga Sindisiwe 1112. Ligwete Takota 1111. Chauke Pejani 1106. Nchalinchali Lindiwe 1092. Kabashe Lungi 1091. Mafu Notawe 1081. Nalumango Ronalda 1067. Pule Tina 1061. Maimela Joy 1058. Moteja Enji 1052. Benguma Hlengi 1038. Chwete Pem 1024. Letsatsi Duba Dipuo 1014. Ntsweni Tsipane Refilwe 1008. Meth Nomakosazana 997. Mutambi Faith 992. Tapa Nokuzola Zoleka 986. Tolashe Sisisi 973. Maule Regina 972. Siwela Violet 969. And the last one, Muraka Tandi 946. That is the National Executive Committee, comrades. And we'll have our first meeting of the National Executive Committee tomorrow at 16 hours. Today. Declaration. Pule, are we ready with the media? I can't see. Amandla! 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 Amandla!
Ungavali mangicula ngopresident.
No, ndibone kwathi mandiyivale le ngoma ngoba iyatshintshiza kum. So ndaqonda mandiyivale. Nifuna ndi-contest upresident. Andizuyenza loo nto. Amandla! Viva ANC, viva! Viva ANC, viva! Viva ANC, viva! Amandla! Long live Nelson Mandela, long live. Long live Oliver Tambo, long live. Long live Walter Sisulu, long live. Long live Pixie Kaisaka Seme, long live. Long live Reverend Mahabani, long live. Long live John Langaliwalele Dube, long live. Long live Albert Lutuli, long live. Amandla! Long live Dr. Kuma, long live. Long live Dr. Kuma, long live. Amandla! Wathinta abafazi. Malibongwe. Raw young lions, raw. Raw young lions, raw. We are the future. No one can stop us. Zoyithola kanjani? Uhlele khoneni. Pata ANC, pata. Pata ANC, pata. Long live delegates, long live. Long live delegates, long live. Long live delegates, long live. Thank you, National Chairperson. The President of the African National Congress, Comrade Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa. The Deputy President of the African National Congress, Comrade Sipoko Oshe, aka Spokes Mashatile. The National Chairperson of the ANC, Comrade Gwede Simpson, aka Ndibuile, Ubuile Mandashe. The Deputy Secretary General, First Deputy Secretary General. Mama Action, Nomvula Mkonyani. The Second Deputy Secretary General, Maropeni Ramukhopa. Mayanga Yanga. The Treasurer General, Madimali Chelete. Dr. Gwen Ramukhopa. Members of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, delegates to the 55th Conference of the ANC. It is a great honor and opportunity for me, comrades, as the Secretary General of the African National Congress, to read to this conference the declaration of the 55th Conference. We, the delegates to the 55th National Conference, gathered at Nazareth in Gauteng on 16th to 20th December 22, and concluded on the 5th January 2023 at Imvelo Lodge in the Free State, under the theme, Defend and Advance the Gains of Freedom, Unity through Renewal, deliberated on critical tasks facing South Africa with the view to finding lasting solutions. We considered the outcomes of the 6th National Policy Conference held in July 2022, the outcomes of regions, provinces, branches, and submissions from leagues of the ANC, from alliance partners, and deliberated on the political report by the President and the organizational report and the Treasurer General's report. 55th Conference affirms as follows: the strategic objective of the African National Congress remained the resolution of the three basic and interrelated contradictions of colonialism of a special type, racial oppression, women oppression, and class super exploitation. We seek to achieve this through the fundamental socio-economic transformation of South Africa into a non-racial, non-sexist, united, democratic, and prosperous society based on the vision, values, and principles of the Freedom Charter and the Constitution of our country. Simply put, the ANC is primarily about building a better life for all South Africans. That in 2024, South Africa will reach a historic milestone of 30 years of democracy. Conference further asserted that the democratic gains made over the first 3 decades of freedom should be highlighted, consolidated, and defended. The narrative by conservative and neoliberal forces in our country that suggests that life was better under apartheid and colonialism must be rejected and rebutted by all freedom-loving and democratic-minded people in our country and in the world. We must publicize the achievements and gains such as a transformative constitution that guarantees political, socio-economic, and other human rights, progress in the expansion of basic services and infrastructure to meet the needs of millions of people who now have access to housing, education, health, water, energy, and other services. The establishment of a credible democratic political system, which is based on the will of the people, institutions that function in accordance with the Constitution, and setting the economy on a positive growth trajectory in the early years of our democracy. The ANC is the principal architect of the transformative constitutional democratic order in our country. A democracy with South African characteristics wherein the state is accountable and capable of improving the quality of life of all citizens. The newly elected NEC must act with demonstrable urgency in addressing the shortcomings, setbacks, and reversals that threaten to undermine and erode the democratic gains. This includes chronic poor economic performance and the resultant high rate of unemployment, poverty and inequalities, rising lawlessness, criminality and violence. The ANC-led government must move decisively to implement conference resolutions to end load shedding and stabilize electricity supply. Priority must be given to speeding up the resolution of the energy crisis, in particular, undertaking critical maintenance at Eskom so we return existing generation capacity to reliable service. We must transform and grow the economy so that it creates jobs and empowers African in particular and blacks in general, particularly the youth, women and people who live in townships and rural areas. We must introduce new measures to cut red tape and ensure small enterprises, cooperatives, and informal businesses, particularly those owned by women and young people, have effective means of raising finances and accessing markets. We call on government to prioritize unlocking the potential of the country's land for employment, rural development, food security, and economic development. We must do more to bring underutilized land into production and enable the state to acquire agricultural land for purposes of distribution to previously disadvantaged persons. Social support provides a safety net for communities living under conditions of poverty. Conference therefore supported the continuation of the social relief of distress grant while government investigates the modalities and affordability of the basic income grant. The security agencies must more effectively tackle rampant crime and corruption. While we welcome recent deployment of new police recruits, security agencies working with communities must take decisive steps to stamp out kidnapping, gender-based violence and femicide, gangsterism, the drug trade, illegal mining, and the wanton vandalism of public infrastructure. We note with concern our mission to create a non-racial, non-sexist society and democratic society has been undermined by conservative and neoliberal forces opposed to fundamental transformation of South Africa, who have been gaining confidence and expanding their zone of influence with the aim of sustaining racial and patriarchal privilege in the economy and broader society. Racism and sexism remain prevalent in all spheres of society. We condemn in the strongest terms the continued harassment of and discrimination against Black people who regularly get attacked and victimized on the basis of their skin color. The ANC calls for the introduction of more effective instruments to combat racism, which has no place in our constitutional democracy. Because the ANC has been the principal architect of our transformative constitutional democracy, Conference instructed that we must recommit ourselves to developing and deepening this democracy into a truly people-oriented, people-centered, participatory democracy. The agenda for state transformation includes transforming the three arms of the state and all its critical apparatus. The transformation consists of institutionalizing integrity and ethical leadership across the state. In this regard, the ANC-led government will push ahead with the implementation of the outcomes of the State Capture Commission. We must push ahead with the reforms to professionalize the public service to ensure capacity and stability in the state. Through institutions such as the National School of Government and the Public Service Commission, we must continue to recruit the best skills in society, and more importantly, recruit capable and ethical women and men to serve the people of South Africa. As the ANC, we must continue with the agenda for equality by ensuring that women hold leadership positions, including the LGBTIQI+ community, who continue to play a critical role in development. We also believe that the state must play a significant role in realizing the one plan and one vision through the district development model. In this regard, the conference declares commitment to long-term planning and makes sure that through an intergovernmental relations framework, we respond to the challenges facing the people in a focused manner as envisaged in the district development model. We reaffirm that the course of socio-economic transformation is taking place in a global environment characterized by contradictory tendencies in terms of human development. We will continue to work toward a multipolar world order wherein national sovereignty and solidarity are not undermined. The conference declares that we will work with progressive forces in the world by focusing on the implementation and realization of the goals of Agenda 2063 for the Africa we want. We believe the recently signed African Continental Free Trade Area presents an opportunity to improve trade in the continent and promote investment in critical sectors. We will work with the progressives in the world to realize the implementation of sustainable development goals, which include human security and peace. We will continue to support the struggles of the people of Western Sahara, Cuba, Venezuela, and Palestine. We will also continue to support peace efforts in war-torn countries such as the DRC, Somalia, Central African Republic, Yemen, Syria, and the peace agreement in Ethiopia. The ANC and the alliance must act together in a decisive, empathetic, and principled manner to generate hope for a more inclusive, just, equitable, and sustainable future for our country. The ANC will only succeed in realizing its strategic objectives of transforming South Africa when it has successfully transformed itself into a renewed, responsive, modernized, well-governed, well-resourced, caring, and effective political formation. The central focus of the ANC roadmap to 2032. This means we must build an outward-looking ANC with a clear program to serve the people. Consequently, all ANC structures have to change their focus towards the people we serve and the problem and challenges they face in their daily lives. We must build dynamic ANC branches that engage with communities and become active in ward committees. Branch members must join community policing forums, work with local law enforcement to promote safety in our communities and combat vandalism of community infrastructure. We must develop strong branches that monitor local services to prevent corruption and poor service delivery. While they strengthen advice offices and contact centers for residents to access government services, we also believe that central to the renewal agenda is the quality of the membership. In this regard, we declare that we'll strengthen the program of building the new cadre over the next 5 years. We equally reaffirm the importance of compulsory introduction and political schools for all leadership collectives and public representatives. This includes attracting skilled people with abilities that can help us in our transformation agenda. 55th National Conference rose with determination to implement the immediate program of renewal, which demonstrates that the ANC, by its actions, can be trusted to put the improvement of the condition of life of all the people at the center of all its action. The campaign will focus on 3 issues critical to our people, which are delivery of basic services at the local government level, addressing state capture and corruption, and ensure the active participation of the people in development. As delegates to the 55th National Conference, representing ANC members, Veterans League members, Women's League members, Youth League members, together with our allies, COSATU and the South African Communist Party, and a broad range of organizations who participated in our conference, remains resolute to defend and advance our democratic gains and to continue to unite around the common goal of building a better life for all. ANC lives, ANC leads. Amanda!
It would have been easy to say we are endorsing it by acclamation. Any mover for the adoption of the declaration? Any mover? Any seconder? Any counter? Counter? Okay, Council Civil account.
Thank you, Comrade Chair. It's an improvement. Reference to building a new cadre in the next 5 years, I suggest, must be consistent with the spirit of Vision 2032. So it must be over the next 10 years, just as we said in 2012, that in the next decade we'll build a new cadre. So I think the period is just too short. That's the submission I make. It's not very substantive, but it's important.
is very substantive because it says this cadre must go to grade 10 and grade 5. But fine. The declaration has been adopted. Now, let me call on the President to deliver closing remarks to conference. Comrade President.
Amandla. Matla. Manda. Manda. Ashu. Matimba. All power. Comrade National Chairperson, Gwede Mantashe, Deputy President Paul Mashatile, national officials in their entirety, members of the National Executive Committee, newly elected out of the box, delegates, and comrades and friends. Comrades, we have reached the end of the 55th National Conference. This conference is quite historic in many respects. It is historic in that for the very first time, the African National Congress has succeeded in electing 3 women as part of their officials. That is something to be applauded, as you just did, and to be celebrated. It is also the first time that we have, through the use of technology, brought together some 3,000 and so delegates from across the country into a virtual forum or platform to receive commission reports and adopt resolutions and to conclude the work of the 55th National Conference. And comrades, it is also quite historic that sitting where I was seated as the president, inspecting whether any one of you was falling asleep, I found no one asleep. You were all so attentive. You've been meeting today in the 9 centers across the country, quite committed to the work of finishing the tasks of this conference. And today you started work at 10:30 and it is now 2 o'clock in the morning and you are all still wide awake. This is historic itself. Now, comrades, this conference will be recalled as a decisive moment in our movement's history, where we reaffirmed the values, the principles of this great movement, as well as reaffirming the ANC's historic mission. This conference will be recalled as a moment when we stood as one in turning our backs on the destructive tendencies and practices that have eroded the people's confidence in our movement. This conference will also be remembered as a key moment on the path of renewal of the African National Congress. It will, yes, indeed, be remembered as being a key foundation stone on forging the unity of the African National Congress. Let us remember this moment, a moment when we all agreed that renewal and the unity of the ANC are key pillars of strengthening our organization. So let us frame this moment in our minds and never forget it. We all agreed and acknowledged our shortcomings and considered the factors that also contributed to the erosion of our standing amongst our people. Through Vision 2032 and the renewal plan of action tabled by the ANC Veterans League, we have described the organization that we are striving to be and have developed a roadmap towards the achievement of that organization we want to be. This 55th National Conference will also be recalled as a conference at which we adopted a credible, far-sighted, and ambitious program to meet the challenges that our nation faces. The discussions that we have had in our policy conference preceding this conference, and the discussions that we have had in our commissions during the first part of the conference, as well as the reports we adopted today, tonight, and this morning, place the needs and the interests of the people first, especially the working class and the poor. Our discussions have outlined the steps that we must necessarily take to build an economy that serves all South Africans. This is an economy that bridges the huge gap between wealth and poverty, between privilege and disadvantage, between black and white, and between men and women. As we said in our declaration, we are beginning, yes, to see some developments in the economy where we are returning to also pre-COVID levels of our economic strength. While the economy is producing better outcomes and growth sectors are beginning to perform slightly better, we believe that as the ANC, we must ensure that our growth is inclusive and creates much needed jobs and opportunities for all. We have said that the future of our country demands that we prioritize development and empowerment for women and the young people of our country, as well as the disabled people in our country, or people living with disabilities. We have agreed on actions to address the immediate challenges that our country faces. chronic unemployment, an electricity crisis, the rising costs of living, while setting out the path that we must follow to further transform our economy. Our resolution set out the path towards comprehensive and sustainable social protection and to the provision of affordable housing and basic services for all. We addressed and agreed on measures to accelerate land reform and provide support for the productive use of that land as set out in our declaration. We have had extensive discussions on how we should prioritize safety and security of the people of our country. We have outlined steps to further strengthen our police service and other law enforcement agencies to improve the effectiveness of our criminal justice system and to improve the security of our borders as well. The challenge of gender-based violence and femicide received in-depth attention, and we agreed on prioritizing the task of ending all forms of violence against women and children. This conference has provided guidance on the strengthening of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide as adopted at the Gender-Based Violence Summit. We have also provided clear direction to our structures and our deployees in government on further steps necessary to address this pandemic, including how the budgets of various departments should be deployed and utilized. Delegates have confirmed that the transformation of our society requires a developmental state, a state that is capable, adequately resourced, and effectively managed. We have adopted resolutions on professionalizing our public service, eradicating graft and waste, and monitoring more closely and more regularly the performance of our deployees in government. We have agreed on actions to strengthen local government, to improve the provision of services to all citizens, and to promote integrated planning and implementation through the district development model. This conference has reiterated our commitment to a better Africa and a better world. We have agreed to strengthen our relations with fellow liberation movements and like-minded parties across the continent and the global South in pursuit of progressive ideals, sustainable development, peace, and stability. We agreed that our country needs to play a progressive role in our foreign policy in a multipolar world. We should continue working with progressive forces to advance our developmental objectives. We will chair BRICS this year and should strengthen our relations with our BRICS partners. Our participation in SADC and the African Union must be aimed at advancing the interests of our country and our continent. Conference has directed us to strengthen the Pan-African Women's Organization, PAU. Our support for the people of Palestine, Western Sahara, and Cuba remains solid and firm. We support the calls for the lifting of punitive and cruel sanctions against Zimbabwe, Cuba, Venezuela, and elsewhere where such sanctions have been imposed unilaterally and unjustifiably. This conference has mandated government to pursue the reform of international institutions so that they are more inclusive, representative, and responsive to the needs of the developing world. Delegates to this conference have recognized the grave threat posed by climate change to our country and indeed to all of humanity. We have resolved to reduce our carbon emissions, but we have also resolved to end load shedding and restructure ESCOM so that it can better serve the people of our country. We have resolved that the transition to a low-carbon economy must be just and inclusive, and that it must be executed at a pace that is in concert with the developmental needs of our country. It must prioritize the welfare of workers and communities and industries most affected by the transition. Our mixed energy approach must guide our transition as we also use new technologies to help us through this transition. Over the course of 5 days in December and in our discussions today, last night and this morning really, we have crafted a program of transformation that prioritizes action and urgency. It is a program that directly addresses the needs of our people today, tomorrow, and into the future. But the value of this program, and indeed the value of this conference, will ultimately be measured by the actions we must now take to implement it. Working together as an alliance and all sectors of society through a forged solidarity and social compact, we will be able to implement our program of action and accelerate economic recovery and growth. As we rise from this 55th National Conference, as we return to our branches and the deployments from the venues where we have gathered, our focus must be on turning the resolutions that we have taken into reality. The people of South Africa must see and feel a real difference in their lives. Comrade Mek Maharaj, our veteran, has given us useful guidance by getting us to ask ourselves pertinent questions. He said we should ask ourselves questions about what our people want from and expect from the ANC. He went on to say we should ask ourselves whether we will be able to reverse the decline of our movement in the eyes of our people. He correctly said our tasks are numerous and extensive. They are immediate, medium-term, and some are long-term. But he suggested that we should focus on implementable tasks so that we can demonstrate to our people that indeed we are serious about addressing their needs. That is wise counsel indeed. Our people must experience a renewed and revitalized ANC that serves their interests and meets their needs. The significance of this period in the history of our struggle, and the tasks that are therefore required that we should undertake are effectively expressed in the consolidated report of the commissions that were presented here, but more importantly, also set out more clearly on the strategy and tactics section, which says, all delegates to the 55th conference agree that South Africa and the ANC are at a moment of fundamental consequence. This moment requires clarity of thought, firm conviction and courage, as well as decisiveness and an unshaken commitment to the ideals that have inspired generations of South Africa's freedom fighters who sacrificed and suffered so that our country can be free and our people can live in dignity, close quotes. This is indeed a time for firm conviction and decisiveness. As we prepare for the 111th anniversary of the formation of our movement on this coming Sunday, the 8th of January 2023, let us remember the great responsibility that history has placed on our shoulders to renew the ANC and to revive the National Democratic Revolution. Let us also, comrades, remember that we have a responsibility to those who have walked this path before us and to the generations that will follow to act with extraordinary resolve to restore the struggle for liberation. Let us conclude this conference united in our determination to spare neither strength nor courage as we strive together to build a better life for all our people. Let us demonstrate through our tireless work that the ANC lives and that the ANC leads. Amandla. Viva ANC, viva. Thank you, comrades, and go well.
Amandla, awethu sakwenza lento ke ngoku. We are closing the conference now. We're not adjourning. From December to now, we're closing it. We are going to sing the national anthem. here Saturday, we must do the work. If there's any mass work that is being done, let's get involved. On Sunday, we celebrate 111 years of the ANC. So it can be fulfilling if you do the mass work in the build-up. Thank you very much.